Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fully Managed Podcast, the podcast where we discuss marketing and business tips to help assist you on your business journey. I'm your host, Shannon, Penji's partnership coordinator, and I'm joined here today with a very special guest, Hadass from Freemius. Thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Of course. So, could you start by telling us a little bit about yourself? What are you doing now? How you got to this point? What does head of brand mean? Tell me all of those things and anything that you think would be relevant to share. Don't worry if it's too long. I want to hear all the details.
Okay, so I'm Hadass, the head of brand at Freemius. So I came from the design area. I started as a designer, have a B design degree. And I started back then, like 10 years ago, as a designer. I used to work for, at the beginning, print studios, something very simple. And then I moved on to more high-tech vibes. So I started to work for startups, all kinds of companies that are a bit bigger, had some freelance period as well. So I tried like everything, basically.
Good to have, to know what you like.
Yeah. So just to experience everything. And I think this is part of being a brand because you need to experience everything. It's a bit video and a bit of design and a bit of content and a bit of print. And then you combine everything and then a brand is born. So it's kind of, trying everything before I knew that I'm going to go to the brand direction. So that was it. So I worked for a startup. Then I gave birth to my daughter. She's 7 right now. Yeah, she's like my best creation ever. Every parent says, but mine is like the best.
But you're a designer, so you've had many creations. So I mean, like, if she's the best creation, that's really saying something.
Yeah. So anyway. So I got pregnant, gave birth to my daughter, and then back then I was freelancing, and then I decided, okay, I need a job right now. I can't, doing freelance anymore. It wasn't for me at that time. So I started to work for Elementor. So I started there as a designer, and I did like all kinds of webinars and tutorials. I was in the education part. And then I moved on to the Israeli department. I opened the Israeli department. That means like employer branding. This is the name right now. Back then, nobody knew what it is. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of the beginning. It was really interesting, to start building something that you don't really know what you're doing, but you just doing it by hunch and understanding and reading numbers and stuff like that. From then, I moved to the global brand. We rebranded the entire company. So I was part of it and doing like big brand campaigns at the end. And a year and a half ago, I moved to Freemius. It's a smaller company. It's 20 people, but it's all distributed. There's no offices. So it's really different. It's a big shift for me because I used to work in an office. Right now I'm rebranding the whole company. So we started a process a year ago. So right now we have like a new logo, a new website, a new strategy for the brand. We're starting to talk to the target audience, very direct. So everything was a bit tighter. We changed a lot of stuff. So it's kind of a new company right now.
Yeah.
It's very exciting. And it's like getting back to the roots, because Elementor for so many years and it's a big company. And right now it's like, open, like designing everything from scratch and, building the strategy from scratch. So it's kind of a challenge for me. And it's also a company that is here for 10 years. So you need also to combine stuff that are, in the past. So you can't really restart everything. You need to see how it works also with the target audience and stuff like that. That's what I'm doing right now.
That's really cool. No, I think that is such an all-encompassing experience. Like I think you've been in a similar role this entire time, but just in different different spaces, which I think is really cool because you get all of these different perspectives on what you're doing. And so how is that switch from doing global to going to a small company? Was it like a harsh adjustment? Is there something, what do you like about both? What do you dislike about both maybe? How is that?
So there's a lot of stuff. First of all, you need to switch on in your brain. because it's like in big companies, we have big budgets as well.
Mm-hmm.
So if you need something, that's okay. Money can solve it. Usually, like you need to do a big campaign. Okay, let's take a production company, and we have the people, we have the stuff that we need to do. The results you need to do to work on it. Like, what is the message here, and what are you doing inside? This is like the actual work, and it's the same thing, for both size company, because the story here is what's important. Basically, it doesn't matter if you pour a lot of money into it or not. So it's kind of the same for both. But right now, when you're in a smaller company, you really feel you're doing something in your hands. It's not like a company is doing it for you, and you're giving the credit, you're taking some. It's kind of a team effort. It's something that you're doing with maybe one or two people, and that's
Yeah.
it. And also, you need to think outside of the box mainly. It's like, because you don't have the budget, so you're doing something that is more guerrilla stuff that are a bit different,
Mm-hmm.
because you don't have the budget for it. But usually, those things are the most memorable stuff. And this is
Yeah.
what I did also for Elementor at the beginning, because at the beginning we didn't have a budget. So it's kind of the same. So these are the stuff that I really like thinking outside of the box, doing stuff that are very creative and with like no budget. Everything is guerrilla, and you're doing stuff with your hands. That's like my bread and butter. This is my favorite stuff.
Ah,
Yeah. I
no,
think
that's
like
really awesome.
yeah, I think like for big companies, the only minus there is like the bureaucracy that you're suddenly.
Yeah, because you have to go through all of these different people to get to
Yeah,
approve the thing. Yeah. It's
yeah,
like cool to have all this money because you have like all of this, you can really create something so big and cool, but then it gets like
yeah.
they hacked at by different
Yeah,
people.
people need to understand what they're gaining out of it, so they
Yeah.
will approve it. So that's the only minus thing that I can think of. But beside that, it's like kind of the same, but it's a different animal. It's a
Mhm.
whole different story. So there's a lot of stuff that I like.
Yeah, no, that's really great. I mean, it seems like you're very happy at
Yeah.
doing it because it I think a lot of people have this assumption that when you're kind of like confined to a budget that it's harder to be creative, but I think a lot of times it's the opposite because there's like if anything you have to be like more creative, more innovative because you have to be able to think about things that might be what's the word I'm looking for, like unconventional because
Mm-hmm.
you're in like a constraint, and I think that's where creativity really shines is when you kind of do have constraints because you have to think about things in a different way than maybe if you had like your mind able to like run wild.
Absolutely. I think there's also the PR issue here, because if you're a smaller company, less eyeballs, so
Mm-hmm.
you want to bring more people, but if you fuck it up, nobody will know about it, and it's fine, you know? And if you're a big company, you need to think of every word you're saying, because there's a
Oh,
lot
like
of
people
people.
are gonna crucify you for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. So then you need to understand how you're going to twist it so it will be a positive thing if
Mhm.
something is happening. So there's kind of PR thing also in the background.
Yeah.
But yeah, like for smaller companies, that's the fun of it. You can do whatever you want,
Yeah, there is
just
more freedom of like failure. Like there's less fear of that sometimes. And especially like
yeah.
experimenting is a big part of, marketing, advertising, design, like anything. And there's less room to experiment in a very big company because they don't ever want to fail.
They don't never want to fail, but it's like you need to think of all the options, and all the things that
Hmm.
might go wrong. Usually they want to experience, but if they see that it's a big PR issue that might be, so they will think twice if they want to go that route.
Yeah, some of my favorite things to learn about is marketing campaigns that meant well, but they were a huge PR problem because they just didn't think of like one thing in correlation to it, and it was just like accidentally the worst thing they could have ever done. And I think that's hysterical. I mean, it is like it's always gambling, but sometimes like you just put out a campaign that's perfectly imperfect for the like
Yeah.
world at the time and you're not expecting that, and it's very
Yeah.
funny when that happens.
Yeah, so I remember that when we rebrand Elementor, so we started with 6 colors. That was the
Mhm.
first thing we did, and one of the colors were kind of a orange beige color. And I remember there was a post about us that they compared us to McDonald's. And they were like,
Oh.
what is this shit? You know, why they're doing rebrand like McDonald's and like that, yeah. And it's kind of, people don't like that somebody is moving their cheese, you know. So they saw something that it's not exactly what they used to see. So they start, talking, trash about us. And we're like, okay, let's go with it, let's go inside and see, what we can do with that. And
Mhm.
then we did a video with the guy that was like our, the person, the front of Elementor. And he was like talking about it and showing McDonald's like at the background. So it was like, yeah, okay, looks like McDonald's, but McDonald's have a great brand, we don't mind. We like the comparison. So
No, I
it's like
really like that.
lemonade out of this.
Yeah, you can change it into something positive. I think responding to
Everything.
something that's PR related is really important too. The way you
Yes,
respond to something
yes,
is
yes.
important.
Everything can be changed. It might take time. There are, bad PR that is happening that it will take time to change, but most of the thing, everything can, twist and turn backwards and make it better again. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and I think it's like not taking yourself too seriously. Sometimes it's
no
like, yeah,
way.
it's. I think that is people's biggest downfall is like doubling down, apologizing or whatever it may be. Sometimes it's important to apologize. There are
Yeah,
times to
when
apologize. Yes, but not other times. It's just how about we have fun with this, and that's
yeah,
okay. People love a sense of humor.
yeah.
So how do you like what is your approach to creating brand identity that supports and elevates like product led growth specifically?
So I think it's important. I think it's important for small companies for sure, because
Mhm.
you need to understand that people that don't know you, that don't know what is the agenda. They want to know the product first, because you're selling something. At the end of the day, you need to sell something. And if you're not selling something, it doesn't matter what you're saying behind the scenes.
Mhm.
So the product is like one of the most important thing at the beginning for sure. It needs to be like, even, I don't know, 70% of what you're saying. And when people, getting attached to your product, and I can say features, but it's not just features. It's you can push your voice, your brand voice inside a product, meaning like, let's say you have notifications that say, hey Shannon, nice of you for joining us this evening, or something like that, something that is more personal. So it will be like a person that you're meeting all the time, but it's like the product. So it's something that, you can definitely do through the product, and people need to love the product just because of, those small incentives. But on the outside, you need to bring those customers, you need to bring your target audience somehow. And then you just, start doing this handshake and saying hi in the morning. And, it's small steps. It's like a dating, basically, because when you know somebody, you don't start talking to him if you're not find him appealing, right? You need
Mhm.
something there. If you feel that, it's not your type, so you're probably going to walk away and not talk to him. So it needs to be something like that. It's really that. It's that simple. It needs to be something that will appeal you, and then you're staying because of the personality. That's the idea.
Yeah.
So it's
No, I completely
exactly,
get that.
yeah. That's it. That's the whole, the whole approach.
Yeah, because people do like of course everyone thinks that it kind of like it's world ending or world beginning, I guess whatever you want to say, of like having a really good innovative product. And yeah, yes, that's great. I mean, a really good product is going to sell no matter what, regardless of the volume or whatever you're hoping for. But people love a brand. Like people will if
People
they
will pay for the brand.
yeah, they will
That's
stay for the brand. Exactly. Like in it, and you can put out a product that doesn't have good branding, and then you can put out another product, and no one's gonna buy that because they don't. they're not invested. And there are brands that are so perfectly curated that someone would buy anything from them. Like, no matter what they put out, they want that because they had a good experience the first time, but they also just love, like, they almost identify with the brand because they like it so much.
I think like a great example is the whole like AI tools that are right now. So you saw that there's like the grill thing that they're doing with OpenAI and all those, stuff that are going on that are very viral right now because people are starting to have this, connection, like human connection with all those AI tools. And that's exactly that, because you're getting some kind of a connection that is so personal and very deep. So you kind of fall in love, in your product. Think of like if you have an iPhone, for example. I know I love my phone. It's like I can't be without my phone. It's I'm not addicted. Yeah, I'm just
yeah. Okay.
Understand. But I can't imagine my life without my phone. It's like, I have everything inside, my pictures, and it sets exactly with the tone of the ring that I like and the notification of my messages. It's exactly me. So there's a good book. I forgot the name of the person. He wrote about, the emotional connection for brands for specific products. So he talked about that when you're buying a product, you basically buy something that represents your personality. This is something that is so, you can definitely see it for everything you're buying, from clothes to your toothbrush. Okay. It represents you because even in my toothbrush, I'm choosing like the color of the toothbrush. So it's something that, something from my personality. And I can definitely, if we're choosing somebody random from the street and, tell them what is your favorite product in your house, and you see that this is exactly the person, it's the exact person. Somebody is, his couch, maybe his TV, maybe his phone, maybe his shoes, I don't know. But you'll see the person and you'll understand that this is exactly that, because it's a mirror. It's a mirror for our personality. And this is why like brand for product is so important, because it represents something. It's more than having features and the most innovative, product in the market. It's the personal connections that sticks. That's it. So yeah.
I completely agree. I think that that's something that goes into, I think that like the impersonalization that kind of comes with the advancements of AI, that a lot of people, I think, will still always want to talk to a human being. I'm trying to be a little more hopeful with the idea that not everyone will be replaced by these newfangled technology. But I do think that this personal touch is something that people really do believe in. I mean, like, I think that you can tell when a product or a service has care put into it, like that it genuinely was so well thought out, like the little details were thought of, and it's like you can tell that with really anything, especially when you care about something or a specific area of something, like video games or something like that. Like you can tell when something was cared about or it was just made like to be made, to be made by a certain time or to make money or whatever it may be. But you can tell when care is put into something.
For sure. It's all the small details. This is what actually creates the brand at the end. So yeah. Exactly.
What kind of misconceptions do you think there are about branding in the SaaS industry specifically?
Misconceptions. I think like SaaS products, I don't know if everything, but I can say like right now we're working with WordPress and SaaS, audience. And most of the SaaS companies are actually more into brand right now. In the past, they were not at all. But I feel like if you see, all the products that are even aiming for SaaS, like Lovable and Bold, that are, you can create your app there or something like that, they already come branded and packaged. So it come to understanding that brand is important. And also right now you understand that AI tools are, showing in their searches stuff that are more mentioned and people are, talking about it. It's more than Google right now because Google is showing you, an ocean of results. So this is something that is more direct. So it's speaking specifically. So people need to recommend you. So they start to understand that, you need to invest more in brand.
Mm-hmm.
It's not there yet. It's not 100%, that's for sure. I can still see, all kinds of, SaaS products that are like, dude, you need to work on your brand.
Yes,
Something.
I've seen them. I've seen so
Yeah,
many websites and
a lot, a
yeah, there
lot.
are.
SaaS products can be also app on your phone, basically. So
Mhm.
apps are more there. So it's kind of a broad area. But if we're talking about specific softwares for desktops and stuff like that, so yeah, they're not completely there. They still need some work, but it's definitely a whole different vibe from the WordPress, for example. WordPress are just starting to brand their stuff. There are some products that are all brand and amazing, but most of them are not, and that's
Mhm.
like you know that's the way it is right now, but they are working on it. That's I can say.
Yeah, that's the tech industry is evolving so quickly that some people, I
Yeah,
think, put some things to the wayside that may be more
yeah.
important than they think they are when they realize that maybe their search traffic isn't doing as well as they thought it would. So, on top of that, what do you think like like okay, something in branding that you think is kind of like a rule of thumb? Do you have one that you kind of disagree with? Like you think shouldn't be a rule, but like kind of is generally accepted as something that should be?
Hmm, disagree. I think like the thing that I'm always doing when I'm starting to work with company is that usually the talk starts with, I want to be like this. I want to be like this company or this product or
Mm.
something like that. And for me, that's a big no-no because that's not how you build a brand.
Mm-hmm.
A brand needs to be from the bottom up. There's a seed of a story, and then from this seed, this is where the tree grows and the brand starting to grow, and it's stronger because he has roots. And that's the idea, because if you're copying somebody, it will not stick, and it's
Mm-hmm.
good for maybe a year, maybe two, maybe if you're like copying it like really good and riding the wave, but it's not connected to your values, to your story, to everything you represent. So why doing it in the first place? You have your personality, you're solving some kind of pain for somebody. So let's talk about it. Talk it outside. There's a reason you're building what you're building.
Mm-hmm.
Just talk about it to the world. They will get it because you got it. So that's, I think, like the most thing that it's like I can't even hear
Yeah,
that.
no, I completely understand. I think there's this kid, like, there's this. I think it's really common, especially in the agency world, of like
Yeah.
competitor research, which like competitor research is normal and everyone
Yeah,
does it, and I like,
you do that.
yeah, it's okay, but
Competitor research is good because then you know where's your niche is. So it's
yeah.
something that relates to marketing more. And you need to understand it, like what to highlight on your
Mhm.
brand. 'Cause you're probably going to have the same stuff, but maybe they are doing it better, and you need to find your niche where you can be better than them. So that's also something
Exactly.
that you need to think of.
I completely, and that is like perfectly to my point in the idea that yes, in a way, there is room for comparison in the idea that if you're not doing as well as maybe a competitor, maybe you have to figure out what that is and why. But that doesn't mean that you should be copying them.
Yeah,
Like, that doesn't mean, because that's not going to set you aside. That's just you're going to be consistently playing catch up with this person or this
for
brand or
sure.
whatever it may be, because you're just trying to become them or be better than like, do the exact same thing but better somehow, instead of just being your own. And I think that is something that's so common, unfortunately.
I think it's even more than that because they will always be a step ahead of you because they
Mhm.
already started that. They know their brand. They know what's the next step is, and you're just gonna copying them all the time. So you always be a step behind. So why doing that in the first place? You know?
Exactly. There's no point in, like, comparison is normal because of course you want to understand where you're at. And I think there's also a I think people could be happier if they were just okay with where they're at sometimes. I think that that's also like a
You need
thing
to
that happens
understand
very
where you are.
often.
Yes, for sure. I mean, when we started our rebranding process, that was the first thing we did, like building the strategy to and understand like where do we position ourselves in front of our target audience. Like there's the competitors, and that's fine, but there are the target audience, and what they know, how they position you. That's really important because if they're not even consider you, so that you have a problem with your messaging, something is
Mhm.
not going through. So it's something that you need to think of and understand and not, living in la la land, basically. And yeah, and just like understand and be real with yourself. And it's like the most difficult thing to do, especially for CEOs and, founders, because like they think they're solving the world usually.
Yeah.
World hunger, not anymore. We have our company.
Yeah.
No, maybe I wish, but, probably not. So it's like really difficult for founders and CEO to understand, your product might be good, but you're not talking to the right audience. And you need to understand, where you are right now in the area, what's going on the surface,
Mhm.
where you're staying. So when they understand that, then you can start building the strategy. Because if you don't have this basic understanding, so you can't really build anything because everything is on assumptions and dreams, and it's not working.
Yeah, it's there foundationally it is great to have optimism and hope
Yeah,
and believe in
that's
what
great.
you have created.
Yeah, but you need to
But
be realistic.
there's exactly.
It's exactly like you need to see the numbers. If the numbers are not there, so probably something is not working. That's the easiest way
Yeah,
to
doing
talk
it
to
differently.
founders anyway.
Exactly, yes. It is a hard job being a founder, and
Yes.
especially being able to take criticism or even critique yourself when you
Yes.
believe so harshly in something that you've created, because it's yours, and of course you're going to be like a little defensive over it, but
Mhm.
it's important for growth to understand like where you fit
Yeah,
and be comfortable with that.
definitely. Definitely.
So we are approaching time, but I one last thing that I do want to ask you is, so what kind of advice would you offer another small tech startup that's doing something similar to you? Like what do you wish maybe you knew when you started?
I think like be fearless. That's my approach because I think that when I started to work with small companies back then, I didn't know that, I am fearless. So it's kind of like I did something from my gut feeling and I didn't like overthink it. And then when I started to work with bigger companies, I was like, okay, wait one sec. And it's something that you might lose during, the way, and you need to
Yeah.
come to that. And I think like also think how you can do something that you can then create something more out of it. It's not one thing, it's not one direction. I can give you like an example of something that just happened. So we were just coming back from a conference. We were at WordCamp Europe just
Mhm.
a week ago. I'm sorry, my times are like
Ish.
so we just came back from Basel, and we were in WordCamp Europe. And usually at WordCamp, we're doing our Makers Meetup event. So it's kind of an event for makers from all over the world that are meeting, and it's more of like a business cocktail party, so they can talk business and meet each other, meet the team. It's a great event because you meet, founders, CEOs, influencers. It's kind of all the connections that you need are happening there. And it's not, something that is like party. It's more of a business meeting vibe, but with beers and alcohol. So what we did this year, usually we want this to spread the word somehow. And
Yeah.
what we're doing usually it's like social games and stuff like that. But this time we thought how we can do something that will also bring back to the community, and also, we can show it to the world and maybe help another company on top of ours. So we found a nonprofit organization in Switzerland. They're doing lessons for women that want to enter the world of code, and they're doing it half free, half like small payment, something like that. But anyway, it's a nonprofit organization. And I talked to them, and I told them, listen, maybe we'll raise donation in our event, like during the event. So they're like, yeah, of course, sounds good. So one of the women that works there came to the event, and we did our social game a bit different. We told them for every image that is going to share it with our hashtag, we will donate $10 to the organization. So what happened is that, first of all, we helped the community. They got exposure. We got exposure. Everybody wins. And, the people that publish the images are basically good people because they donate without donating. So it's kind of a no-brainer to do that. So it's kind of a win-win-win situation. And then it's something that you can definitely do later. You can do a whole campaign later with that. Like, there's a lot of stuff that, you're starting like a butterfly effect that way, because you can take this small thing that you did, like the donation thing, and this, collaboration that we did with the organization, and you can do a whole lot of things out of it. And the organization, it's small. It's not something big. And we're not that big as well. So it's something that, it's a win-win situation for both of us. The effect is big for both of us. So think of something that, you can do all kinds of things out of it, and not just like one linear thing. That's I think, the best advice I can give.
No, I think that is incredible advice, because I think people do really want to see like that direct like outcome, so they kind of avoid using other strategies that may have like this ripple effect. And
Yeah.
I think it's unfortunate, because I think like short-term goals are more valued than long-term goals in that way. And I think that it can really be at a detriment, because that it is these kinds of campaigns are very successful. It's just harder to see the results of them, and because they're not as trackable as maybe like another kind of campaign, but it's still really wonderful.
It depends, because on social you can see, if there's mentions and stuff like that. But I think like if you're on a small budget, you need to think like outside of the box, and this is exactly it. We paid money, but not a lot of it, and we got a lot of exposure that if we did like paid ads, we would probably paid more for that, and we got like even more exposure that way. So it's something that you definitely need to think about if you want exposure on social, how you can do it in a creative way. Because right now, UGC, user generated content, is the thing right now. People are sharing. Yeah, like the product is just a platform right now. So people needs to share what you're doing, and how you're going to make them share. That's the big question here. So if you manage to do that, the sky's the limit. That's the idea.
I think that was a perfect place to end. You even had like a beautiful like metaphor to end on. I really appreciate you. This was really fun. I had a great time, and I think you provided a lot of knowledge that would be really helpful to our audience.
Yay!
So
And you're welcome to send me questions if you have. Find me on LinkedIn, X, Instagram. I'm everywhere. So
LinkedIn will be in the bio. Freemius's website will also be in the bio, so you guys can check it out. And thank you so much again for joining me, Hadass.
Thanks for having me.